I would hope so. I really hope that they find a way in as like a 10 seed. That'd be amazing.
Yeah.
You know what? I think, didn't Dick's Hoops Weiss talk about this a little bit too?
Yeah, it's a perfect lead in. So, folks,
Yeah.
we're going to play for you now the interview with Dick Hoops Weiss. Hoops, of course, in the Philadelphia Hall of Fame, college basketball writer. He got the Kirk Gowdy Award from the NBA, the Basketball Hall of Fame, up in Massachusetts. Came on with us, gave us 20 solid minutes. I mean, we could have talked to him for 3 hours. It just,
so thankful.
So it tells you what he's got going on. The games he covered, his thoughts. So here you go. Here's the interview with Dick Hoops Weiss, Blue Star Media, legendary sports writer for 40 years. Gave us a few minutes. Folks, we have an incredible guest on the Screen the Screener podcast today. We are honored to have the great sports writer Dick Hoops Weiss, a 40-plus year sports writing veteran who has covered college basketball in Philadelphia, across the country. He's in this Philadelphia Sports Hall of Fame. He's a current Blue Star Media sports writer. He's been a columnist for the Philadelphia Daily News, the New York Daily News, and he's co-written so many wonderful books with coaches like Rick Pitino, John Calipari, with Dick Vitale, and he has also authored a tribute book on Duke coach Mike Krzyzewski, the legendary Dick Hoops Weiss. Hoops, it's an honor to have you here. Thanks for coming on the Screen the Screener podcast.
Hey, Mike, it's so good to talk to you. That is great.
So, Hoops, we are following you all over the place, and we are thrilled to know that you just landed, I guess, from the Bahamas. Is that where you were?
I did. I was in the Bahamas for the Battle for Atlantis, and I stayed around to watch Kentucky play on Monday night against Arizona State. It was worth the trip. I mean, Atlantis is a beautiful property, a little expensive, but they have an unusual setup. They play all of their games in a self-contained area in a 3,900-seat ballroom with low ceilings and pretty good lighting. It's a different feel for visiting college teams, and the teams that they had in this tournament this year, the semifinal games came down to Baylor and Louisville, Michigan State, and Wichita. So it's a chance to get a feel for teams around the country and coaches that I really like. And it was also a chance to find out a little bit more about Baylor. They're a lot better than I thought they were. The kid Jonathan Motley is the real deal. He averaged 20 points throughout the tournament, was the MVP as Baylor came back from an unbelievable 32 to 12 deficit to beat Louisville in the championship game. And then I stayed around to watch Kentucky, which may well be the best team in the country right now, which is pretty scary to say. But, this is a team that starts 4 freshmen and a sophomore. They got 115 against Arizona State. It could have been 130 easily. And that's in a 40-minute game. This is the quickest team, Mike, that I've seen ever to play for John Calipari, and that includes the 10 team with John Wall and the 12 team that won the national championship. De'Aaron Fox, Malik Monk, Bam Adebayo are all going to be fairly high first-round draft choices after this year.
Yeah, you hit on 2 teams that Gus and I have talked about extensively. Kentucky, Calipari has he's gotten to this mold where he gets these kids in, and it's so underrated. They're talented, but he gets them to play together. And this team is incredible. 3 games in a row, over 100, incredibly explosive.
Yeah, well, you make a really good point. I'll tell you what really impressed me is how quickly they have grasped concepts. I mean, they are way ahead of, I think, his championship team and the 15 team that got to the national semifinals.
Wow.
With 38 straight wins, because they really share. They play for each other. They're starting to shoot the ball. When they were in the Garden, they were pretty good defensively, but Fox really didn't shoot the ball well that night. They really relied heavily on Malik Monk to go out and make 7 threes in that 21-point win over Michigan State. But down in Atlantis, Fox has a triple-double. They put all 5 starters in double figures. Monk has 23. Briscoe, who made an incredibly intelligent decision to come back for his
Very
sophomore
smart.
year,
Yep.
finishes with 20. I mean, they're loaded, and they have four guys. They had 9 block shots in that game. They have 4 guys who are 6'10" or bigger, and they really run the floor. They'll rebound, kick it out, and they're a one pass team to the rim. They really get up and down the floor fast. I was surprised, and they execute out of the half court much better than some of this other team.
Yeah, it's I put out a Twitter poll last night because we are so excited to see that UCLA Kentucky game on Saturday.
Oh, you know what? So am I. I'm impressed that you have that one on the radar. I mean, they play at Kentucky's pace.
Yep.
And it'll be very interesting to see the matchup at point guard. I mean, I have to tell you, I didn't think Lonzo Ball was as good as he was.
Yeah, neither did we.
But
yep.
He is. I mean, he's a double-digit assist guy.
Yeah. So
and now he's starting to make shots, guys.
Yeah, and that's a game. We're going to talk about this today. We're talking to the great Dick Hoops Weiss from Blue Star Media, a Philadelphia Sports Hall of Fame writer. We're going to talk about this today. There's a lot of guys on that team, Hoops, that remember that game out in Chicago 2 years ago. That was 41-7. So I know it's in Lexington. And listen, Kentucky obviously is the favorite. They should be. But that's going to be a fun game at noon on Saturday. Get your popcorn ready.
You know what? I totally agree with that. If I wasn't going to be down at Navy for Navy and Temple in the American Championship, because I still think I'm one of these people who think that the Navy is still the best non-Power 5 team in the country and probably deserves a spot in the Cotton Bowl. But that's going to be a sensational game. And when they picked up T.J. Lee and they got Ball, it changed a lot of the way they play. And Hamilton has really come into his own too. I mean, it's a team with a lot of pieces. I mean, it looks like they could be as talented as anybody in the pack, and that includes Oregon. I mean, Oregon has got bodies, but UCLA is playing at a very high level right now.
You know, Hoops, it sort of gets to my overarching point, which is we love college basketball. We certainly do. But I think that this start to the season has been one of the most exciting that I've seen ever. Yes. I mean, just last night, right? Indiana comes out, plays a great game against UNC, beats them. They beat Kansas, put 103 on them, and they lost to Fort Wayne. I mean, if that's a sign of things to come, I mean, we're in store for a great season.
Yes. I mean, that game, and then last night Oklahoma State plays Rogers State and wins by 6.
Right.
I mean, there's some crazy scores. I knew it was going to be crazy. Down in our area, and I live right outside Philadelphia, and Chestnut Hill, which is a small little school that's beat Coppin State. Not that it means anything, but you are getting D3 teams wiping out D1 teams.
Yep.
I mean, and it's crazy stuff. The Fort Wayne thing really stunned me, because I thought that Indiana was playing almost as well as anybody. I mean, they have at least 3 of their guys who are legitimate Big Ten stars, and I would think they and Wisconsin and Purdue will probably fight it out for the Big Ten championship. But they're really hard to beat at home.
Yeah,
really hard to beat at home.
No, absolutely. And let's slide over. You know, you obviously down Philadelphia, Villanova. I mean, you know
right.
what a year that must have been. We've really been impressed with the Big East. I mean, between Villanova, Butler, Xavier, and Creighton, who some people may not know about as much, even though they had the big win over Wisconsin. Talk about the top of the Big East. Is that a conference now that measures up with your Big 12 and your ACC and your Big 10?
Certainly, they may not have the quantity that the ACC has this year, but the quality of their top 4 is excellent. I mean, I thought Creighton was going to be good. I didn't realize how good Patton was.
Yep.
I didn't realize what an impact Marcus Foster would have on the team. I have watched the little kid Watson play ever since he was in high school. Boys Latin. He's a Philly kid.
Mm-hmm.
And, he starts out at BU, and I had seen him in the Conshohocken tournament, which is a postseason basketball tournament they have in the suburbs here.
Sure.
And he had committed early to BU, and I said, this kid is much better than that. And people get fooled by his size, but, there's no fooling his talent. He's on a sensational run. Butler is as fundamental as ever. I really think they made a wise choice with their coach. Xavier looks like they could be as good as last year, maybe even a little bit better. And Villanova is this may well be Jay Wright's best shooting team ever.
Wow.
If you take a look at his personnel, he has 8 guys who can make a three in game situations. Now he's hurt a little bit. Phil Booth hasn't played the last 3 games. Timmy Delaney has hardly gotten off the bench because he's been injured. But they have guys who can make shots. Now it comes and goes, but Hart and Jenkins, Brunson, Booth, DiVincenzo, Bert Pascal on a good night can all put the ball in the bucket, and they seem to have been able to survive with Darrell Reynolds in the middle. I mean, they got by Purdue on the road in Mackey in that early season game.
Big win. Yep.
But I was a little concerned when they played that game because Isaac Haas had a huge second half, and I wonder how they're going to do against teams that have length this year, and I wonder how they're going to do with manufacturing leadership. I thought they got great leadership out of Ryan Arch and out of Daniel Sheffield last year around the defense. I think that had a lot to do with their success. These guys could afford to be who they were without taking the responsibility to lead the team. Now, I'll say this. I think Josh Hart really helped himself when he stayed in school for an extra year. I think if he had left last year, he might have been drafted, might have even played in the league, but now he sets himself up as a first-team All-American, and he's playing at a very high level of confidence as a senior.
Oh, definitely. I love when the players stay. I mean, I know that, you want to get out there, you want to help your family. Yeah, of course. Let them stay, stay one more year. Yeah.
And, it was so great last year. Now, I'll say this. I think Villanova really kind of lucked out last year. If you think about it, I mean, the number 1 and 2 picks in the draft, Simmons, the kid from Duke. I mean, Simmons his team doesn't make the tournament. Duke gets knocked out in the Sweet 16, and Jamal Murray, who is the 3rd best freshman, loses in the second round. So when you look at the teams that advanced to the Final Four last year, Syracuse and Villanova got there. They're the only 2 teams that had freshman starters, Malachi Richardson and Jalen Brunson. And so freshmen did not decide the championship the way they did for Duke in 15.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's funny. We were drawing a parallel. We're worried about. I mean, how good is Markelle Fultz out in Washington, right? But is he going to make?
He's great. I saw him practice. I was at Colorado Springs. They had the tryouts for the 18s. I'm saying, I'm not saying he's Michael Jordan, but he's following the same path as Jordan. Cut from the varsity as a sophomore because he was too small, was 5'10" as a sophomore, grew to 6'4", now 6'6". I mean, every time he goes out, he's good enough to get you 30 and 15.
Oh, no doubt. I just want him in the tournament, Hoops. Yeah, I hope he gets in the tournament.
I worry about that. I mean, it's funny. Lorenzo Romar has done a great job recruiting great players. If the 2 freshmen that he had last year had stayed, I mean, they would have been a load to deal with.
That's so true.
But he gets them and they leave. I'm sure Fultz is going to leave. He's got Michael Porter coming in next year, who I think is a sensational talent. He may only stay a year. He's got Porter's younger brother, Johnny, who's going to be a 7-footer. I'm not sure how long he's going to stay. So sometimes it kind of reminds me of Paul Hewitt with Georgia Tech. He would get players like Thaddeus Young, and they'd all leave after 1 year.
Yeah, that's a great comparison. We're talking to the great Dick Hoops Weiss. Hoops, you touched on a team that I feel strongly about. I did predict Baylor to go to the Final Four this year. Of course, the early season prediction.
I'm very impressed.
Yeah, I guess I'm learning off that Syracuse zone from last year, right? No one thought Syracuse could get in the tournament, and then they make the run, right?
I'll tell you what. What makes them so good is they get contributions from the bench.
Yep.
I mean, when they played Louisville, the bench, I think, had 27 of 42 points in the second half.
Wow.
That was pretty impressive. And the kid, I had never seen the kid King McClure play before, and he had 15 in the second half, and TJ Matson had 10 to 12 in the second half. And, they got the lead when the kid, Jaden Layden, is it?
Yeah.
The guard, the backup guard.
Backup guard, yep.
2 breakaway layups to give them a 59-56 lead. And their depth was very impressive to me. You know what you're going to get with Motley, but it was not exactly a game where their starting backcourt played great. Wainwright is experienced. The point guard's experience, but they got it all from their backups in that game, and it was very impressive. It shows me that they can go in a lot of different directions when they play.
Sure, yeah. Well, Hoops, listen, I know you're busy. You're probably writing an article right now. Just tell us, what do you got coming up? You said you're covering the Navy game this weekend.
I'm going to be in the Garden Tuesday for the Jimmy V.
Oh, great.
Then I have to go to Army Navy because I always go to that game. After that, I'm going to see Temple Villanova at Villanova. I think I'm going to go to Vegas on the 17th for the doubleheader with Kentucky and Carolina and Ohio State and UCLA, because I need to see UCLA play. I think I might try to slide down to see Kentucky and Louisville right before Christmas. Then I have to do some football. There's some big games coming up early in the Big East that I wish I could see. The Villanova Creighton game on December 31st is going to be a sensational game, I think. And then by the time I get done with the national championship game, I will be back in time to see Villanova and Xavier on the 10th at the Pavilion, because I think that's going to be a terrific game. And, you don't have to go far this year to see. Anytime you have a team in the top 2 or 3, it really helps. And I think Villanova could have an interesting test when they play Notre Dame.
Yep.
Up in Newark on the 10th. I think that will be an interesting game for them. But there isn't a game that they can't win until the league season. They have they've already won their first Big 5 game. They have St. Joe's, which is a traditional Holy War this Saturday, but it's at the Pavilion, and St. Joe's doesn't really have the front court that they normally have. They have 2 young guards who are Newkirk and Kimball are both playing very well, but I don't know that they have enough bodies to beat Villanova on the road. Temple just beat them last night, and in a game where they gave up 79, and they struggled to beat Penn. But Phil's a good coach. I'm sure it'll be a classic Big 5 game, but I like Villanova in that game. I like Villanova LaSalle next week at the Bluster, and I think the Villanova Temple game is at the Pavilion, and after that they really kind of go into hiding until they open the league, and then the league should be fun. I mean they've won it 3 years in a row during the regular season, but I wouldn't guarantee anything, because those 4 teams that we talked about are all really good.
Oh, living the dream, my friend. That's an incredible rundown right there. My goodness. We can't wait to read all about it and hear all about it.
No, listen, I can't wait to see your podcast get up and running. I'm really excited for you guys.
Thanks. We appreciate that. Coming from you, that's incredible. Folks, that's Dick Hoops Weiss legendary college basketball, college football writer, Blue Star Media. Hoops, thank you so much for a few moments and enjoy those games.
My pleasure, okay? No, I mean, anytime I can help you guys. I love people who have a passion for basketball, and anything I can do to help you guys.
We appreciate it. Thanks so much, Hoops.
No problem.
Take care.